The episode starts in the Joseon era, where we see the main heroine from King the Land. Her name is Ji-young. She's brought before the king. Ji-young begins by telling us that the king's name is Lee Hyun, and that he's a tyrant. Lee Hyun walks up to her and says, "The food you made confused my senses." The people around him say that she should be punished. Lee Hyun raises his sword, ready to strike her, but suddenly stops. Instead, he declares, "From now on, you are the chief royal chef. You will cook for me every day and never serve the same dish twice. If one day I don't like your food, that will be the day you die." Ji-young thinks to herself, "I was supposed to become the head chef of a 3-star restaurant, but now I've become the royal chef of a dictator." Lee Hyun looks at her and asks if she has something to say, but she stays silent. He then lifts his sword again, but only to cut the rope that's tying her up. Ji-young then tells us, "You won't believe this, but I'm from the year 2025. Don't you want to know how I got here?" Now we jump to the present in France. A big cooking competition is about to begin. Everyone is ready to start, and the timer goes off. But Ji-young's stove suddenly stops working. She calls a man over for help, but it still doesn't work. After thinking for a second, she grabs some straw nearby, lights it up, and starts cooking with fire. Everyone watching is surprised, wondering how she's managing to cook like that. Even with the time pressure, she finishes her dish right before the clock runs out. The judges come around one by one to taste the food. When it's Ji-young's turn, they taste it and say it's absolutely delicious. Ji-young explains what the dish is and what ingredients she used. When the winner is announced, it's none other than Ji-young. That night, she celebrates with wine and admires her prize. The next morning, she's talking to her father, saying, "Did you see the news? I'm about to become the head chef of a 3-star restaurant." Her father smiles and says he's happy for her, then adds, "By the way, are you coming over today? There's going to be a total solar eclipse." Ji-young says, "Sure, I'll watch it from the plane." Her father reminds her, "On your way here, bring that Joseon-era book. It's very important. I've asked my friend to send it to you." She agrees to bring it. In the next scene, Ji-young collects the package from the post office. It's the same book. Later on the plane, her meal arrives. Before eating, she adds a special cream to enhance the flavor. In the cockpit, the pilots announce that the solar eclipse is starting. Everyone takes out their phones to take pictures. The man sitting next to Ji-young accidentally spills tea, soaking her Joseon book. She rushes to the bathroom to dry it off, and while flipping through it, she realizes it's actually a recipe book. But one page is missing. It's torn out. Then she reads a strange line. "My dear, if you ever read this one day, could you come to me?" The moment she reads it, the book starts to glow. Ji-young mutters, "This must be some kind of Joseon-era romance thing." But as she reads the line and the eclipse happens at the same time, the book starts shaking and glowing even brighter. Ji-young screams for help, but no one can hear her. She's suddenly pulled backward as a chain of light bursts out from the book and pulls her inside. Now she's traveling back through time. She sees strange flashes and lands in the middle of a forest in the Joseon era. She falls to the ground but gets caught in a net. Nearby, King Lee Hun is out hunting deer with his men. He draws his arrow but stops when he remembers his mother, the former queen, who had been forced off the throne. He couldn't do anything back then. He could only watch helplessly. Now he releases his arrow, kills the deer, and tells his men that they'll keep hunting. His eunuch, Chang-sun, warns him, "It's already late, Your Majesty. The enemies might attack at night." But Lee Hun laughs it off, saying he worries too much. Back at the palace, a ritual is about to begin. Everyone is waiting for the king. Queen Dowager Inju, Lee Hyun's grandmother, looks worried. A maid tells her the king hasn't returned yet. The women nearby gossip, saying he shouldn't have gone hunting today. It might anger the ancestors and bring a curse of death. Inju angrily silences them and thinks to herself that Lee Hyun must be remembering what happened to his mother, which is why he hasn't shown up. Outside, ministers and officials are gathered for the ritual, complaining that the king is late. Someone mentions that Secretary Songji went to Chahong, the place where beautiful women are chosen. Meanwhile, Lee Hyun keeps hunting, saying he'll kill more deer and earn a reward. His bodyguard reminds him that it's the day of the ritual, and since it's a solar eclipse, skipping it could anger the heavens. They say if you offend the heavens, you'll see a female ghost, he warns. But Lee Hyun doesn't believe in such things. Meanwhile, Ji-young is still trapped in the net. She smells the scent of a butterfly and slowly wakes up from unconsciousness. She yells for help, but no one's there. She tries using her phone, but there's no signal. "I swear I was just in the plane's bathroom. How did I end up here?" she says in disbelief. Lee Hyun suddenly spots a fox nearby and goes off to hunt it alone. Ji-young, still trapped, stretches her hand out of the net to get a phone signal. But nothing happens. Just then, she notices an arrow flying toward a fox. The arrow misses, but another one hits the rope of her net, setting her free. She hides behind a tree as more arrows fly her way. Then she sees someone approaching. Lee Hyun. Ji-young steps out and angrily asks, "Why were you shooting arrows at me? The fox ran that way." Lee Hyun stares at her suspiciously and pulls out another arrow. Ji-young panics and runs, and he starts chasing her. She runs all the way to a cliff, pulls out her stun gun, and warns him to stop. But Lee Hyun draws his sword instead, ready to strike, and demands, "Who are you?" Ji-young says, "First you tell me. I already told you that the fox ran that way. Didn't you hear me?" But Lee Hyun replies, "I did hear you. Now tell me, who are you?" Ji-young answers, "I'm just a human." Lee Hyun remembers what his bodyguard said about a female ghost possibly appearing during the eclipse. He starts thinking that this girl might actually be a wandering ghost and calls her a beggar ghost. Ji-young replies, "Yeah, maybe I look like a beggar, but I'm not one." Lee Hyun releases an arrow, and Ji-young's bag falls to the ground. She yells, "Why did you do that? Are you crazy?" "You probably don't know this, but I know Taekwondo." Then she starts showing off her Taekwondo moves right in front of him, demonstrating how good she is. When Lee Hyun runs out of arrows, Ji-young laughs and says, "I'm going to report you to the police. You have no idea, but I know a lot of attorneys." Lee Hyun, confused, walks up with his sword and says, "I have no idea what you're even talking about," pointing the blade at her. Ji-young tries to use her stun gun, but it doesn't work. Lee Hyun throws it away and was about to attack when suddenly an assassin appears and shoots an arrow. Before Lee Hyun can react, he gets hit. He looks at Ji-young and says, "So you're one of the rebels." Then he falls over her, and both of them tumble down into the water. In the next scene, soldiers arrive searching for the king. They also find Ji-young's bag. Meanwhile, Song-ji returns from Cha-hong with his father, So-hung, talking about what he did there. Ji-young regains consciousness and sees Lee Hyun lying next to her. She realizes he's actually been hit by an arrow and wonders what to do. She takes off her scarf and ties it around his wound, then pulls out a Vaseline-like cream and applies it. She calls for help, but no one's around. She says, "I should call the emergency number." Then she remembers her phone is still in her bag. She checks his pockets for a phone but finds none. He doesn't even have pockets. Suddenly, Lee Hyun opens his eyes, pulls out a knife and says, "Were you trying to find me? I know you want to kill me." Ji-young screams, "What are you talking about? I just saved your life. Look at yourself." Lee Hyun stares at his wound and says, "There must be a reason behind this. When your purpose is done, you'll probably try to kill me." But Ji-young kicks the so-called tyrant, snatches the knife from him, and threatens. "Don't come near me," Lee Hyun says. "I am the king here." But Ji-young thinks it's all part of a movie shoot. She says, "Stop talking nonsense," and starts to walk away. When Lee Hyun approaches, Ji-young points the knife at him again. She says, "You don't know this, but I'm really good with knives," and shows off her skills. Lee Hyun is stunned and says, "You're perfect with it." Then, suddenly, he grabs her and tries to take the knife. They struggle, and he pushes her to the ground, demanding, "Who are you?" Ji-young answers, "I'm Ji-young, the chef." Lee Hyun asks, "What's a chef?" She replies, "I'm a cook." The two continue to fight for the knife until it falls far away. Lee Hyun tries to grab it, thinking he can reach it, but Ji-young kicks him in the butt, grabs the knife first, and accidentally hits her head on him, knocking him out cold. Next, Ji-young ties up the unconscious king. When he wakes up, he says, "Did you do this? Why did you tie me up?" Ji-young says, "Don't you remember trying to kill me first?" They start arguing again, and Lee Hyun calls her a ghost. Ji-young snaps back, "I'm not a ghost, I'm a chef." Then she grabs the rope and starts dragging him away. Meanwhile, we see Mokju, the king's concubine. Her maid informs her that the king is still in the forest. Mokju says he's gone hunting before, but never this late. She recalls 7 years ago when she was imprisoned. Back then she was sold by her mother to a man, but Mokju killed him. Jason, the king's uncle and rival, visited her and asked, "Did you kill that man? I can get you out of here." She confessed and asked, "What do you want? Do you want to spend the night with me?" But Jason replied, "No, I'm not like those men. I need you for something else." In the present, Mokju wonders if this situation is Jason's doing. She sends him a letter. Jason reads it and tells his men, "The king is still in the forest. If any of you have done anything wrong to him, I won't forgive you." Back in the forest, Lee Hyun tells Ji-young, "Bring me some water. I'm thirsty." Ji-young says, "Are you crazy? I'm thirsty too." Lee Hyun insists, "I'm the king of this country." Ji-young laughs, not believing him. He then shows her a dragon tattoo on his chest. Ji-young looks at it and says, "So what? These tattoos are cheap. Foreigners love them." Lee Hyun yells, "How dare you talk to me like that? How can I make you believe I'm the king?" Ji-young replies, "And how can I make you believe that I'm a chef?" Lee Hyun says, "If I really am the king, what will you do then?" Ji-young answers, "I don't know, but right now you're just my patient." As they keep talking, Ji-young drags the injured king along until they reach a house. Lee Hyun says, "This place used to be a village, but I had it cleared out. I come here for hunting." Ji-young mentions a cruel king who used to torture people, take their lands, and hunt on their property. He also used an event called Changhong to bring women. Lee Hyun asks, "Are you talking about me?" She replies, "No, that's from way before your time." But it actually was about him. Lee Hyun asks, "How did that king become such a tyrant?" Ji-young says, "He forced people off their lands and relocated them, and that Changhong thing was awful too. Why are you acting like I'm talking about you?" Later she ties him up again and looks through the house, finding some clothes. She changes into traditional hanbok. When she steps outside, she hears a noise inside and goes to check. There's a girl who attacks her with a broom and calls her a thief. Ji-young says, "I'm not a thief." The girl, named Kil-gam, says, "You stole my clothes." Ji-young explains, "There was no one here, so I just borrowed them," then apologizes. She asks, "By the way, can you tell me where we are?" Kil-gam looks at her strangely and explains the place. Ji-young says, "You and that old actor talk exactly the same way. Are you both part of the shoot?" Kil-gam asks, "What's a shoot?" Then she tells Ji-young, "This is the year of the monkey." Ji-young is shocked and asks, "Is there a convenience store nearby?" But Kil-gam asks, "What's that supposed to mean?" Ji-young mutters to herself, "If I want to get out of here, I'll have to get my bag first because my phone's inside it." She asks Kil-gam to go with her up the hill where she dropped her bag, but Kil-gam says she can't go. Then, both of them suddenly feel hungry. Ji-young says, "I can cook something for you." And Kil-gam happily agrees, saying, "All right, I'll come with you, but let's eat first." Since Kil-gam had a great sense of smell, she takes Ji-young out to the fields to find ingredients for cooking. They gather a few things to make a meal. Ji-young gets to work and cooks up a delicious dish, even adding some cream on top. Later, both of them take the food to Lee Hyun and tell him to eat. But he refuses, saying, "I won't eat it." "You eat first. What if it's poisoned?" Ji-young takes a bite to show him it's safe, then holds out the spoon toward him. He tries to take a bite, but it doesn't go into his mouth. He complains, "I need a smaller bite." So Ji-young scoops up a tiny bit and teases, "Here, my sweet princess, have a bite." Lee Hyun yells, "Do I look like a princess to you?" Ji-young laughs and says, "Oh right, I forgot. You're a king." Then she insists he eat, and he finally does. But as soon as he tastes it, it's so spicy. His mouth feels like it's on fire. He shouts, "What kind of poison did you put in this?" Ji-young takes another bite and says, "It's not spicy at all." She offers some to Kil-gam, but even she screams, "It's way too spicy." Ji-young shrugs, "Fine, if you don't want it, I'll eat it myself." But Kil-gam insists, "I can handle it," and starts eating again. Lee Hyun just watches the two of them quietly. Seeing them enjoy it, he too wants to eat. A little food was left, so Ji-young feeds him. When she tells him to open his mouth, it reminds him of how his mother used to feed him. He whispers to himself, "It's strange, how her simple food reminded me of my mother." That night, the two were supposed to head to the hill, but Lee Hyun had fallen asleep. Ji-young gently covers him with a blanket before leaving. Kil-gum teases her. You take such good care of your husband. Ji-young quickly replies, he's not my husband. But Lee Hyun was only pretending to sleep. Later both girls go to the riverside and start having fun. Meanwhile, soldiers arrive near Lee Hyun and rescue him. He tells them, those rebels held me captive. We must kill them. The soldiers burn the house and leave. Ji-young remembers how Lee Hyun once asked Kil-gum, who are you and why are you living here? This land isn't yours. It's our hunting ground. But Kil-gum didn't answer. Now, Ji-young asks her the same question. Why do you live there? That land isn't yours. Kil-gum replies, I'm hiding from Chung-hung. They capture women and take them to the palace where the king chooses his concubines. Many of them die during that process. Ji-young is shocked and says, that used to happen during the Joseon era. But Kil-gum looks at her strangely and says, this is the Joseon era. What do you mean? Just then, a group of soldiers passes by. Ji-young sees them and yells for help, but among them is Lee Hyun. He looks right at her, and the episode ends. We'll see what happens next in episode 2. Until then, bye. Episode 2. We see Ji-young looking out and shouting for help, but Kil-gum covers her mouth and says, what are you doing? This is Cha-hung. He could catch us. Ji-young thinks to herself, is Cha-hung really here? The two hide and try to slip away, but a soldier spots them and asks, where are you going? In the next scene, they're thrown into a cell. Ji-young screams, get me out of here! You kidnapped us! Kil-gum tells her to calm down, nothing can be done now. The other women ask Ji-young if they deserve to be here and warn her to sit quietly or they'll shut her up. Ji-young looks at the locks and the cages and wonders if this era is really Joseon. Kil-gum says she's told her many times that it's Joseon, but Ji-young still can't believe it. She shouts again that they need to get out. Soldiers come and after a lot of effort, shut their mouths. Sitting there, Ji-young remembers how happy she once was, how she won a competition, and wonders how she ended up trapped here. She remembers meeting the boy who called himself king and wonders if he was telling the truth. She had spoken against the king, calling him tyrannical, a man who kept taking people's land, but she had said those things right in front of him. Now what will happen to her? Soldiers arrive and lead them outside. Ji-young asks Kil-gum, what will happen now? Kil-gum explains that the women will be divided into 2 groups. The young ones will go to the king and the other group she doesn't know. Ji-young's number is called. The governor's son, Iyun, asks her age. She answers 27 and is placed in the second group. Kil-gum tries to look older and says she's 28, but she's also placed in Ji-young's group. Iyun explains the younger group will go to the king. Soon, Inspector Cha-hung will come to select them, and the other group will go to the kitchen to help prepare food. In the next scene, Lee Hyun and his soldiers are still searching for the 2 girls. They find a rubber band that was used to tie Ji-young's hair and notice footprints, guessing the governor's office is where they were taken. Lee Hyun smiles and says, okay, let's go there. Meanwhile, Ji-young and Kil-gum arrive in the kitchen. They look around, cooks are already working, and when asked what they're making and for whom, the cooks say they don't know. They're just following orders. Ji-young sees that food supplies are very scarce. A man appears and says that 2 important people are coming and that they need to prepare food for them. Ji-young says, okay, we can do that, but who are they? What do they like? Food doesn't just happen. The man says he doesn't know. Then Iyun arrives and asks what's going on. Ji-young explains they have almost nothing to cook with and don't know the guests' preferences. Iyun says he will tell them, but warns that if they fail to make a good dish, their lives could be at stake. Are they ready? Hearing that, Ji-young says yes, and Iyun pulls her aside to explain that the guests are Sonji, the chief secretary and town inspector, and his father So-hung. Sonji and the king, Lee Hyun, are childhood friends. They joke and spar, but both are very cruel. With Changwon's help, they punish people who oppose them. Sonji purposely finds faults in food, even adding hair to a dish. Ji-young asks, are you ready for that? She agrees, but her condition is that if her food pleases them, they must free all of the women. Iyun promises. Ji-young tells the other women about the deal. If they cook well, they can be released, but they have almost no ingredients and don't know what to make. Then Ji-young spots meat. Kil-gum says she hid some meat in a clay pot and found it. Ji-young praises Kil-gum's nose, she can sniff things out quickly. Iyun watches them and asks an attendant whether they might survive. The attendant says he doesn't know, but they seem sincere about the cooking. He then mentions what happened to Mi-young. She ran away with her grandmother and you couldn't even call her back. Iyun says she's already dead to him. Ji-young tries to cut the meat, but it's too tough. She thinks hard and decides to use a sous vide method, low temperature and vacuum cooking to prepare it. In the next scene, we see Mokju talking with her maid and asking what happened at the governor's office. Bosun says Songji and his father went there. Mokju says it will be very entertaining to watch the governor's face when his daughter Miyong is presented for Chahong. We then see Songji and his father arrive, and Aeun greets and brings them inside. Back in the kitchen, Ji-young works according to instructions from a book her father gave her long ago. She cuts the meat into small pieces, ties it, and suspends it in water. The water is hot, so she gauges the temperature with her hand and adds cold water to reach the right point following the book's method. Sonji is inside selecting the girls when someone announces the food is ready. Everyone comes out to eat. They present the dishes, and Sonji looks at the food and scoffs. "What is this? These are just simple pieces of meat. You are insulting us." Iyun apologizes, saying they have new cooks who don't know much. Sonji says that won't do, bring them out. They should be punished for humiliating them. At that moment, the soldiers seize the cooks and bring them before the officials. Ji-young doesn't understand what's happening. She looks at the food and thinks, they didn't even taste it. Ji-young says to Aeun, "What is all this? You told us to cook. We did that. They didn't even taste the food. Taste it first. If it's bad, punish us." Sonji looks at Ji-young and says, "You're bold. We will taste it. If it's not good, your life could be at stake. Are you ready?" Ji-young says yes. Sonji then brings out Mi-young, the governor's daughter, and Iyun sees his daughter and embraces her. The governor is furious and wants to strike, but he can't because they showed they are Chahong. Sonji says that if the servant is telling the truth and the food really is good, the daughter may stay here. If not, they will take the daughter to the palace. Now, everything depends on this meal. Aeun says, "All right, you should taste the food." They both begin tasting the food, and it is incredibly delicious. They want to eat more, but Young does not allow it. Songji lies and says the food is not good. Ji-young thinks to herself, "I know you're lying." The governor tastes the food and then starts shouting at them, claiming the food is excellent. He says he has never eaten food like this in his life and accuses them of trying to take his daughter to the palace by lying. He draws his sword and moves in to punish them. But Aeun steps forward and tells his soldiers not to commit this injustice. Aeun orders his soldiers that these are merely servants or criminals and to torture them. That was exactly what was about to happen. They seize Ji-young, and she is about to be tortured. She screams and insists the governor is lying, that the food is actually very good. But no one believes her. As they are about to strike her, a voice calls from behind. It is Lee Hyun's voice, and Aeun asks him to come forward to judge. Lee Hyun approaches Ji-young and says that if the food is truly as good as she claims, he will try it himself. Ji-young thinks, "I have heard this voice somewhere before." When she sees him, she realizes he is that boy. He is truly the king. Ji-young remembers her father and wonders, "Now what should I do?" In the next scene, everyone is gathered inside. Food is presented before Lee Hyun, but he first tells Ji-young to taste it. Ji-young does so. Lee Hyun then eats and is overcome with shivers. The meat is extremely tender. He thinks to himself, "How can this be? I have never tasted food like this." He finishes the entire meal and then asks what was mixed into it and how it was prepared. Ji-young explains everything. Lee Hyun remembers Ji-young's earlier scene where she claimed to be a chef. He asks how old she is. She answers 27. Lee Hyun says she is 27 and still unmarried, and that she should have married here already. Ji-young replies that he is mistaken and that she is not from here. Lee Hyun asks, "From where?" Ji-young thinks to herself, "I know he will not believe me, but I must tell him." She steps closer and says she is from the future, 500 years ahead. Lee Hyun suggests perhaps her mind is not right, calls her mad, and says he will not kill her today. Ji-young had hoped that because he liked her food, he might favor her, but that does not happen. He announces that the maid will come with them to the palace tomorrow, and that they will also take Kilgum. Ji-young thinks to herself that this is wrong, and that it should not happen. She wants to speak up, but Lee Hyun dismisses everyone and sends them out. The governor stays behind and questions Lee Hyun, asking what he is doing here. The governor accuses him of being obsessed with women, claiming Lee Hyun does not understand state affairs and will not be able to help these people or solve their problems. Lee Hyun becomes angry, draws his sword, and challenges the governor, asking what he said. The governor had been silent when Lee Hyun's mother was killed, implying he had a hand in it. Lee Hyun orders his soldiers to put the governor in prison. In the next scene, we see Ji-young and Kil-gam in a cell. Ji-young asks what happened inside and worries that they may have to go to the palace tomorrow. But before they go to the palace, she says she must return to where she came from. Kil-gam asks where she will go. Ji-young says she must go back to the place she came from. Kil-gam is skeptical but says she will believe Ji-young. Ji-young explains she is from the future and tells Kil-gam everything about being on a plane, what happened, and how she arrived here. She says it all started with a book they must find on a mountain. In the next scene, we see Lee Hyun outside staring at the sky. Sung-ji approaches formally, remarking on the cold and suggesting he go inside. But Lee Hyun says no one is watching them here and tells him to stop being formal. They fight with fans as they did in their childhood. The fight lasts a long time. Lee Hyun sits and says they will go to the palace tomorrow and bring Ji-young and Kil-gam with them. He vows that they will free every woman here and restore Ming's honor. He asks why they started this initially, admitting he once wanted revenge for his mother, but now he intends to stop that. Sung-ji argues they cannot stop suddenly, warning that the Queen Dowager In-ju might suspect that they acted out of revenge. Ayun comes to Ji-young, frees the two women, and tells her he has kept his promise. She is now free to go. In the next scene, it is revealed the two girls have escaped. Ji-young walks through the forest and asks Kil-gam if she lives alone. Kil-gam explains that her father was falsely accused of wrongdoing and taken away, and they do not know where he was taken. She and her mother came to Hanyang to look for him, but soldiers attacked them, and her mother died. Ji-young apologizes for asking, and Kil-gam says it is all right. Ji-young asks if Kil-gam will come with her when she returns to the future. Kil-gam wonders if she could do that but agrees. Ji-young asks Kil-gam what her dream is. Whatever she wants to become, she can become there. Kil-gam reveals that she wants to be a lady chef in the royal kitchen. Ji-young promises she will help. They approach the mountain where the book should be, but they cannot find any bag. Kil-gam sees someone and is startled. Ji-young sees that it is Lee Hyun. Seeing him, Ji-young almost falls, but Lee Hyun catches her in his arms. Soon the soldiers arrive. They are about to touch Ji-young, and she feels certain he will kill her. Ji-young pleads, "Do not do this." But then she realizes something was stuck to her, and he removes it. Lee Hyun asks what she is doing here. She explains that her bag was dropped with the help of an arrow and that she came to retrieve it because it is very important. Her life depends on it. Lee Hyun tells the soldiers to bring the bag. The same scene unfolds. Lee Hyun shows the bag and says it is indeed the same bag. Ji-young laughs and asks him to give it back, but Lee Hyun refuses and throws the bag down, declaring she now has no reason to run. She screams and calls him a scoundrel, asking why he did that. Lee Hyun tells her to stop misbehaving. Ji-young apologizes because the bag is very important and she cannot live without it. She says she will do whatever he asks if he just brings the bag. Lee Hyun looks at her, smiles, and says it is truly amazing. In the next scene, we see that both women have been taken captive and are being brought to the palace. Kil-gam asks, "What will become of us? Who will protect us?" Ji-young replies that nothing will happen to them, telling Kil-gam to stay with her and promising to protect her if Kil-gam will protect Ji-young in return. They decide to help and be strong for each other. Sung-ji asks Lee Hyun why he is bringing them to the palace. Lee Hyun answers that he will not allow them to die in peace here. Later, Ji-young makes a strange face and thinks to herself that if she had a gun, she would take one shot and kill him. Kil-gam thinks the same. In the next scene, we see Mok-ju playing her instruments while women dance. Mok-ju remembers a time when she was with King Jason. Jason was holding her. Mok-ju asks if anyone discovered what happened to Lee Hyun and who did those terrible things to him. Jason vows to find out. He says one of them must be responsible. He has heard Lee Hyun is bringing Governor Mi-wang's daughter here. She is very pretty, and perhaps Lee Hyun is smitten. This is the perfect opportunity for them to act. They must get Lee Hyun into his wash, so he will forget his mother, and then they will kill him. In the present, Mok-ju calls her maid inside and asks who Lee Hyun is bringing with him. The maid replies that it's Mi-wang, a very beautiful girl, but they have no idea that she's actually Ji-young. We see little Ji-young sitting quietly when some kids start throwing stones at her. Two girls nearby shout at them and chase them away, but soon soldiers begin chasing the girls instead. Lee Hyun arrives near Ji-young and says those kids will be punished. "How dare they damage what's mine without my permission?" he says coldly. Ji-young looks at him and says, "What do you mean by yours?" Lee Hyun steps closer. his tone sharp but controlled, saying, "Without my permission, no one can touch you. No one can even speak to you." Then he takes her inside the palace. Inside, Mokju is waiting for Lee Hyun. When he arrives, she smiles and says, "Where have you been? I missed you?" But her tone is clearly fake. Lee Hyun simply says, "There's something I want to show you," and brings her to Ji-young. Mokju looks at Ji-young and thinks to herself, "Who is this girl? She's stunning." She then tells Lee Hyun, "Since I came here, this is the first time you've brought another woman in front of me." But Lee Hyun replies, "She's not a woman. She's a female ghost." Mokju smiles slightly and says, "All right then, I'll prepare a room for her. We'll dress her up properly." But Lee Hyun stops her saying, "No need. We're not doing any of that." Mokju narrows her eyes. "Then what are you planning to do with her?" she asks. Lee Hyun steps closer to Ji-young and slowly reaches out to touch her. Ji-young whispers to herself, "Don't do it. She's watching us." But he still touches her and says in a low voice, "I'll make you cling to me, begging for death." Ji-young trembles and thinks, is he going to torture me or something even worse? The episode ends right there. The third episode opens right where we left off. Mokju urges the king to go back inside because winter will arrive any minute. Ji-young is terrified people here stare at her in strange ways. The king covers her mouth with a cloth and tells the guards to take her to their special place, where he receives treatment. They remove the arrow lodged in his chest. Mokju hides the arrow, which confirms that she may have had a hand in arranging the attack. The doctor says the king's bleeding was stopped just in time, otherwise things could have turned much worse. The king remembers that Ji-young was the one who stopped the bleeding. Mokju asks who did it, and the king says it was that new girl. Mokju demands to know what special place the king meant when he said he wanted to send Ji-young somewhere, but he won't tell her. We then see the special place, a heavily secured prison. Ji-young swears she saved his life and pleads that he's treating her poorly in return. Kil-gam insists the king is a good man. He gave them a bath, new clothes, and saved their lives. Mokju grows visibly upset and jealous. She figures out where the special place is and panics at the thought that if the king starts liking Ji-young, Mokju could be discarded. She tells her maid to find out everything about those girls, who they are, and where they came from. We cut to the palace kitchen, where Bong and Suk, the head chefs, order the cooks around and talk about the two mysterious women who appeared outside. Lady Kim, responsible for the royal household's food, arrives and tells grandmother about the two witches. Mokju grows more anxious. What if the king favors Ji-young? She worries she'll be thrown out. Sonji arrives, and Mokju asks why he didn't bring the governor's daughter, Myeon. Sonji says the king refused. Mokju demands to find Myeon's family, who have been ruined, and orders they be brought here immediately. The chief speaks with his father and vows to teach Mokju a lesson, knowing she's a traitor. Night falls, and suddenly a masked man appears in the prison. He kills the guards, frees Ji-young and Kil-gam, and they escape. Word of the jailbreak reaches Mokju almost instantly. Outside, Ji-young sees several people wearing masks and watches their activity. She tries to find the person who saved them. After some struggle, she catches one and pulls the mask off. It's the king himself. Both girls are shocked. For the king, the whole thing was a game. He enjoys these plays in his free time. He calls over the man who rescued them, who turns out to be Gong-gil. Gong-gil is tall and handsome. Kil-gam immediately falls for him. Ji-young warns Kil-gam, calling Gong-gil a deceiver, but the king says he's an actor who works for money. Gong-gil winks at Kil-gam and slips away, leaving her faint with infatuation. The king gives Gong-gil money and a note asking him to find the attacker who tried to kill the king. That reveals Gong-gil's true role, not just an actor, but the king's undercover spy. Ji-young is furious and tells the king he shouldn't have played that game. The king shrugs, saying it was entertainment for him. He tells his guards to warm the iron. Mokju arrives and watches the whole scene unfold. They tie Kil-gam to a chair and prepare to use a heated rod to punish her. Ji-young begs Lee Hyun to spare her, promising to do whatever he says. The king agrees. From now on, she will be his cook. Ji-young accepts, and she insists Kil-gam come with her, because she cannot manage alone. Kil-gam is her assistant. Both girls are brought into the royal kitchen. Tradition says only men may cook for the king, and the kitchen staff protests when they see women. But the king's order cannot be defied. so the girls are given permission to cook. The chefs ask where Ji-young learned to cook. She replies that even if she told them, they wouldn't believe her. She starts to cook. The king had brought back venison from a hunt, the same meat we saw in the last episode, and Ji-young uses the techniques she learned when she won that French cooking competition. The news reaches grandmother and Mokju, both are astonished. Soon the food is served to the king, who sits with his stomach on display, dressed in shabby clothes. Ji-young scolds him for his appearance, and after tasting the dish, the king is transported. The meal delights him like nothing else. He asks where she came from. Ji-young repeats the same answer she always has, that she came from the future. The king thinks she's mad and believes she's not yet sane. Mokju storms in, insisting the king let her in, but the guards refuse because the king had forbidden visitors. She manages to force her way in and sees the king and Ji-young together, which ignites her fury. The king shouts at the commotion outside, telling them to be quiet. Mokju claims she brought something for the king, but the king instructs her to wait and bring it later and storms off. The king holds Ji-young's hand and tells her he has chosen her. Ji-young panics. She fears he has selected her to be his mistress. Before she can think further, Chief Song-ji appears and tells her he has a task. He wants her to spy on the king and report everything back to him. Ji-young refuses. If the king finds out, he will kill her. Song-ji explains that rumors say Mokju was chased away by the king and that Mokju is dangerous and might kill Ji-young if given the chance. He offers protection in exchange for her obedience. Ji-young reluctantly agrees, but asks for her bag. Song-ji doesn't understand what she means by bag, so Ji-young explains a small satchel worn at the hip, a handbag. Song-ji finally understands, but the bag is not easy to get. The king keeps it locked up in the palace. Mokju is furious and looking for ways to get Ji-young out. Her maid suggests using the palace chefs to harass Ji-young into running away. Back in the kitchen, the chefs release snakes and cockroaches to frighten the girls, forgetting that Kdrama is a wild girl raised in the forest and knows how to handle such threats. Then the two girls return to their cell and begin cursing the king. The next day, we see the same scene we saw at the beginning. Everyone says Ji-young should be killed, but the king says no, he is the king, so the decision is his. It turns out all these rumors were spread by Mokju's maid. Then we flash back to that same scene where they'd brought her to be executed, everyone shouting, "Kill her!" But the king announces, "From today on, you will be head of my kitchen, my personal chef. You must prepare new dishes for me every day. Never repeat a meal. And the day I don't like your food, you will be put to death." The palace ministers and senior officials are furious that the king would ignore their counsel and obey this newly arrived girl. Mokju's maid apologizes because her plan failed, and Mokju comes up with a new idea. She goes to grandmother and claims that the one who arranged the attack on the king was none other than Ji-young, that Ji-young set it up back in the woods. The king already knows this. He told grandmother he'd keep it secret. Grandmother is stunned and declares she will hold a cooking contest. If the girl prepares bad food, both her hands will be cut off. Meanwhile, the two women are taken out of prison and given a warm room. Both are delighted. Winter is harsh outside, and the jail had been freezing. They're also given kitchen uniforms, the only clothes they can wear to cook. The next morning, we see the scene again. Both women cleaned up, dressed, and heading to the kitchen. The staff are rude, refusing to let them cook. Ji-young says, "Look, I'm the head here. I didn't come to cook. I came to keep an eye on you all, because the king told me to do this." Hearing that, everyone grows fearful. If they mess up and Ji-young tells the king, they'll be killed. Lady Kim arrives and escorts Ji-young to meet grandmother. Mokju sits nearby. Grandmother announces that Ji-young will compete against the senior royal cook. If grandmother doesn't like Ji-young's food, Ji-young's hands will be cut off. Terrified, Ji-young stares at her hands, and Mokju smiles, fully understanding that this is her scheme. Chief Song-ji has already informed the king of what's happening, and preparations for the competition begin loudly across the palace. Mokju is ecstatic. She's certain the witch will die today. At that moment, the king arrives to see grandmother after a long time. In those days, the palace wings were huge and family members lived far apart. Meetings could happen only once in weeks or months. Grandmother is happy to see him. The king says, "You were wrong. First, she is my personal chef. You can't cut her hands off. But if you insist on a punishment, then let it be decided fairly. The contest will determine the loser, and the loser's hands will be cut. It won't only be Ji-young's hands." They set the cutting instrument down in front of everyone, Ji-young trembles, repeatedly touching her hands and thinking of her father. She knows she'll have to work hard today. She must cook something excellent. The king sits quietly, thinking that if she truly is from the future, she will have to prove it today and show everyone. Episode 4 begins right where we left off, with the cooking competition. Grandma's condition starts getting worse, and she writes down a single word: filial piety. That becomes today's cooking theme. The chefs have to prepare a dish using the ingredients connected to that word. But since it's an old-fashioned term, Ji-young doesn't understand it at first. The ingredients include tofu, soybeans, and a few others, and she starts thinking about what she can make out of them. Then she remembers, once her dad made her a pasta using those same ingredients. So she decides to recreate it. Ji-young and the other chefs rush toward the kitchen to gather their supplies, but the two rival chefs steal most of the ingredients before she can get there. Ji-young barely finds a few scraps left. Meanwhile, Grandma asks the king, "Why are you taking that girl's side?" The king replies, "Because I want to understand her." Grandma sighs, saying she's become too weak and can't eat properly anymore. The king tells her, "You'll feel better after tasting Ji-young's dish." Outside, both chefs start cooking while Ji-young is still searching for ingredients. The old royal chef offers to help, giving her a few leftover supplies. Meanwhile, the palace advisors also hear about the competition, and they want Ji-young dead. Soon Ji-young begins cooking. The old chef tells her something. When Grandma was brought to the palace as a child, she was separated from her family. The last thing her mother ever made for her was a special soup, something Grandma still remembers vividly. If someone could recreate that soup, she'd be deeply moved. Ji-young decides to make that very soup to win Grandma's heart. Meanwhile, the two rival chefs, once as close as brothers, start arguing and refusing to help each other, too scared about losing or getting hurt. Ji-young, on the other hand, struggles to find the right balance for her dish so that it reminds Grandma of her mother's cooking. Then she suddenly remembers the recipe and rushes out to grab some ingredients. But guards stop her, since leaving the kitchen is forbidden. She explains she just needs a few things from outside. The king allows it, saying, "Go and get them. But make sure you cook something worthy. If you fail, both your hands will be cut off." Ji-young curses him under her breath, but has no choice. With time running out, she sends Kilgum to fetch the ingredients for her. However, Mokju secretly signals her maid to follow, and sends her out as well. Inside the hall, the king's stepmothers grow anxious, wondering what Ji-young could be making. Mokju, on the other hand, keeps praising the two rival chefs, saying she's eager to taste their food. Grandma says the same, while the king quietly waits for Ji-young's dish. Outside, Mokju's maid attacks Kildam, knocking her down and attempting to kill her with a hairpin. Back inside, Ji-young waits anxiously. When Kilgum finally returns, her head is bleeding, but no one knows what really happened. The sight shocks everyone. People even start whispering that Ji-young's dish might be poisoned. The king demands silence and turns to Grandma, asking, "Why do you want Ji-young dead?" Just then, time runs out. The first chef presents his dish, and everyone loves it. The second chef's dish also gets good reviews. Then it's Ji-young's turn. She presents her soup. Grandma takes a sip and can't stop drinking. Tears fill her eyes. "How did you make this?" she asks. Ji-young says softly, "It was simple for me." Grandma starts crying, remembering the day she was brought to the palace, the last time her mother made her this very soup. The memories flood back, and she realizes the meaning of filial piety. Ji-young tells her, "You've become weak, so I made this especially for you." Grandma smiles through her tears, saying, "Keep making this for me from now on." With that, Ji-young wins the competition. As everyone starts leaving, the king orders them to stop. He still plans to cut off the two chefs' hands. Ji-young tries to intervene, but the king warns her, "Don't question the king's decision, or you'll be killed too. Aren't you afraid?" Ji-young answers, "What's the point of cutting their hands? Their hands are everything to them. They cook with them. Without them, they're nothing." Grandma supports her, convincing the king to spare them. He agrees, but orders the two chefs to work under Ji-young from now on and learn from her. Later, we see Grandma talking to the king's stepmothers. They worry that the king might have learned the truth about his real mother's death. It's revealed that the king's mother was poisoned, though everyone was told she died from illness. Many dark secrets still lie hidden in the palace. The king soon learns that it was Mokju who manipulated Grandma into holding the competition. Meanwhile, Ji-young returns to the kitchen, where the chefs treat her kindly now and even cook for her. She asks Kilgum, what really happened outside, why she was bleeding. It's revealed that Mokju's maid attacked her, but Gongal appeared just in time to save her. Kilgum never saw the maid's face. That same maid later tells Mokju that Jeong might be a spy and suggests kidnapping her. The king overhears and explodes in anger. He confronts Mokju, shouting, "Why do you keep turning grandma against Jeong?" Mokju cries, saying she only did it because the king was supposed to avenge his mother's death, not chase after another woman. She tries to manipulate his emotions, but the king storms out in fury. Elsewhere, Jason, the king's rival, keeps gathering intel from inside the palace. It's hinted that the person who once attacked the king might actually be Gongil. Toward the end, Songji brings Jeong some items, saying, "These were sent by the king, they're fancy accessories, things the king's former concubine used to wear." Jeong gets angry, saying, "Are you crazy? I'm not doing that kind of work." She starts believing that the king's real motive is to sleep with her, especially after she won such a big competition. Before she can think further, an order comes. She must prepare the king's dinner immediately. The senior chef warns her that the king is in a foul mood again. His head hurts, and when that happens, he throws food, yells, and rages at everyone. Usually, only Mokju's beauty can calm him down. Jeong starts thinking that this king isn't just rude, he's also completely insane. But at the same time, she feels a strange kind of sadness for him. She doesn't even understand why he seems so hurt inside. Still, she decides to make something special, a dish that turns out to be absolutely amazing. The king sits there looking tense and annoyed. He refuses to eat and has already sent everyone else away. Then, noticing the blue ribbon in Jeong's hair, he says, "You must be the head chef here. Come closer." He asks her, "What dish did you make?" She answers, "Pasta." For the king, that word is completely new. He can't even pronounce it properly. He tells her to taste it first, so she does, eating it gracefully in her own style. Then the king tries a bite, but he struggles with it. Jeong helps him eat, and he's surprised by how good it tastes. He asks, "Why did you make this?" She explains, "Whenever I was sad, my mom used to make this for me." The king looks at her and asks, "Where is your mother now?" Jeong quietly replies, "She died when I was a child." Hearing that, the king feels an emotional connection. Her pain mirrors his own. He asks, "And your father? He must be looking for you. If you want, I can have him brought here." Jeong shakes her head and says, "I'm from the future. If you give me my bag, I can prove it. Everything will make sense." The king leans closer, curious. "You're from the future? Then tell me, what happens to me? What's my future?" Jeong already knows that he'll be killed by his own people inside this very palace. But she can't tell him. If she does, it might change history. So she simply says, "Never trust anyone." Then she quietly returns to her room. Now, she can't stop worrying about him. The king's life is in danger from the very people inside his palace. Meanwhile, the king sits alone, writing in his journal. He keeps a diary where he records everything that happens each day. Suddenly, the book inside Jeong's bag starts glowing too. It makes you wonder, could the book the king is writing now be the same one Jeong found in the future? Is that how she traveled back here in time? It all starts to make sense, though nothing is confirmed yet. Just then, one of the king's guards rushes in with urgent news. The king's top spy, Young, has been killed. He was the only one who knew the truth about the queen's death and was about to tell the king everything. The king is furious. Only Young and I knew about this. How did someone else find out and kill him? That means there's a traitor inside the palace. Someone close to him who not only betrayed him, but also murdered his mother. The king drinks heavily that night, filled with rage and grief. His head chef tries to stop him, saying, "Your Majesty, please don't drink so much. You'll make yourself sick. Let me prepare something for you to eat." Later, in the middle of the night, the chef wakes Jeong up and asks her to cook for the king. She prepares a comforting dish and brings it to his room. But the king doesn't eat. He's too drunk. Instead, he grabs her hand, pulls her close, and tells her, "Don't move, just stay here." He's so intoxicated that he loses control and kisses her. The scene fades right there, marking the end of episode 4.